This lesson is the 4-point star setting. It's a simple grain lifting exercise, and once you've done this one, then you'll be prepared for the 8-point star setting lesson, the boxed setting lesson, and the grain set triangle lesson. These all involve bright cutting, but this lesson we're just going to focus on the grain lifting. I'm using an SB10 setting blank. It's got 6 faces, so there's plenty of room for practice. And I'm going to use a 2.5mm round CZ, and I'll just put it right in the middle, but you can be a lot more economical and get 4 in each face. As you start, you should be practicing as much as possible before you move on to getting into the bright cutting lessons. Now, during the other lessons, I'll be showing you how to use the templates to mark out perfect frames for the bright cutting, and I'll also show you how to make your own template to mark out the 4 points of the star. So with the star setting, it's just 4 points that actually secure the stone. You can see the beadwork there, and the other 4, the longer spokes, are for decoration. So in this case, I'm not going to use any templates. I'm just going to mark it out pretty much by eye, but it is important to get all your marks in the right place. First of all, I'll find the center of the area. I've got just a very small ball burr. It's only a 0.7mm, and this will just put a little divot right in the middle to help steady the drill. So I've got a selection of drills and burrs. I'll go through them because it's a 2.5mm stone. I'm going to be using, well, first of all, I'll be pilot drilling with a 0.9mm drill, and then generally the final drill hole should be done with a drill that's around about half the diameter of the stone. So this is a 1.2mm drill. I'm going to be using a ball burr to take out most of the metal, because the ball burr is a really efficient cutting burr. So we can do a lot of the cutting with that, and this one is 2.2mm. So anything around about between 2 and 2.4 is fine to use. And if you've got the right size tapered setting burr, so that's shaped like that, then it makes the job very easy. This one is a 2.5mm setting burr, and I find to just go around the seating cut with a heart burr just very lightly, it gives a really nice bed for the stone, and it will settle it nice and level to the top surface of the setting. So this is a 2.5mm heart burr. For the marking out stage, I'm clamping my work in a Benchmate, and the prep work I'll do freehand. So for the cross through, just scribe a line through the center, and I'm keeping the line as light as possible because every mark you put on you need to remove later on. And put the right angle cross through. Now you can use a one of the templates to make sure that everything's lined up perfectly, and if it's not, then the cut work will be off and it'll look terrible. So really important to get it right at this stage. So I'll pilot drill through, and the pilot drill just it's a bit of insurance for if it does wander off and it moves off the center line or center point. Your slightly larger drill can correct it. So make sure it is where it's supposed to be, and then go through with the larger drill. And if you need to do any corrections, you lean the drill to the direction you need it to go. So there's a bit more weight on the down at this point here because it was just slightly off. So now that's bang in the center. So I'm going to use the ball burr now to countersink the underside first of all. And now I'll burr into the hole, and don't go as far as putting half the ball into the hole. A little bit further. So I use a micromotor to do my setting work, and you can see it's got a nice quick release on the handle, so makes the job quite quick. So this is the tapered setting burr, and I'm going to drive this in around about 1/2 mil from this edge here, the first edge. So you'll see the profile of the setting burr is similar to the profile of a stone, so that angle there is about right for a CZ. So I go into the hole, and you'll just see a seating cut on the inside now. So I try and do as much work as I can freehand, and you get a lot more flexibility working your hands together as you do the cut work and seating work. And now that you can just see the seating cut there, so we'll just try the stone, and if it needs a little budge in, then use a brass pusher. So I'll show you how to make all these tools during the course. It's not quite level, and that is the reason why I like to just go around that seating cut with the heart burr. Now if your stone sat in okay, then you don't need to do this. So I'm just going to just make the seating cut a little bit more distinctive, so you can see it there. It's nice and level, and the girdle of the stone, which is the very outer edge, should hopefully fit nice and comfortably in there now. Now if you have got any flashing around the edge there, so you can see a little bit of metal's been lifted up from doing the cut work, you can just get rid of that with a larger, either a setting burr like this, anything with a taper on it, or even a large ball burr will get rid of that. But don't put it in your handpiece of your pendant motor or your micromotor, because you don't want to take too much off. I'm just scraping around and making sure that there's nothing that will catch later on. So now we'll try the stone. Now when I teach gypsy setting, there's more of a focus on getting the stone in with a click so it's friction fitting in. And for gypsy setting, when you turn it upside down, if it falls out like that, then it's too loose. So I work a lot harder to get a firmer fit, and I wouldn't use a burr that's exactly the right size. It would be smaller, and I'd be tucking the girdle into the setting, then clicking it in. So that's the gypsy setting course. For this one, it's not as crucial because the securing of the stone is done by the lifting of the grain, and it's not actually the forming of the grain that sets the stone, it's the pushing the metal towards the stone, clamps it in, so it bulges, the metal bulges onto the girdle of the stone, and is pretty much set at that point, so the beading work is really decoration. So I've removed the stone whilst I just mark out for the start point of the grain, and set my dividers to 1.5 millimeters. And with the dividers lodged on the inside of the setting, I'm just going to put a little mark on the lines, and that's where my graver is going to start off. Now this step isn't crucial, but it will help to keep your graver on track. So this is just a scalpel, a surgical scalpel, and it's a really good marking tool because it stays straight as you scratch in. Right, so you can dig that in as much as possible. Be very, very careful working with the blade. So this line is a lot more distinctive than the line I put in earlier with the scribe. So now I'll put the stone in and give you a chance to look at the graver that I'm going to use. So this is a square graver. There's a lesson on how to prepare a square graver. When you buy them, they come just as a steel rod like this. It needs to be prepared, so you also need to buy handles. So unfortunately you don't get them ready-made. You have to learn how to do it yourself. So now with the square graver, starting at the point that we put in earlier, and the face of the graver is approximately 45 degrees, so I'm just going to drop the angle of that to around about, start off with around about 30 degrees from the surface of the setting. During the course I'll also show you how to sharpen a graver, and if it's not sharp it will slip on the work. And if it slips on the work, it could slip off and cause injury. So make sure your hand is well away, but also make sure that you have some kind of connection. So this acts like a guide and a brake. So at the angle, the lower angle, you start the push, and you'll see that there'll be a little bit of grain tail coming up, and you keep going. I'll give you a chance to see what I'm doing a little bit closer in a minute, but you give it a wobble as you go if it's not moving, and lift the angle as you get towards the stone. You'll see the metal bulge onto the stone, and at this point it's pushed onto the girdle and it's clamped the stone in. So you've got the grain lifted now, but it's not capped off properly. So at the sides here there's no cut, and I'm going to do no other cut work later on to tidy it up. I'm just going to use this graver. So the way to finish off the sides of the grain is we're at a 45 degree angle, and now I'm going to tilt the graver towards me, and the edge of the graver there cuts to the side of the grain, and then go the other way to put the frame around the other side. So that's how it looks with that simple cut work there, and you can see that the metal has actually bulged onto the stone. I'll just give the stone a bit of a poke and see if there's any movement there, but normally after the first push it'll clamp it in, so much so that it could, if the seating isn't correct on the inside and it's not level or whatever, then it could actually tilt the stone, so you have to be careful there. So check the level. If it needs pushing down, use your brass pusher, get it back into that seat. And that's the other reason I like to put a distinctive seat into the setting with a setting burt, just in case you need to level the stone off later on. So I'll give you a chance to see what I did close up. So always do the opposites as well, so don't work on the one next to it, because that'll just tilt the stone even more. So at the starting point again, lower angle around about 30 degrees, give it a push, you'll see the metal start curling up, give it a wobble if you need to, and as you get towards the stone you'll see it bulging onto the crown of the stone, and at that point you can just lift your graver up at 45 degrees, give it another little push there, and you'll see behind there's some nice cut work, almost bright cut. And the reason for that is that the underside of the graver is polished, so whatever that touches will leave that impression on. So then once you've done that, 45 degrees, give it a rock one way, and then I might knock the camera doing it this way, but see how we go. A rock that way, and that'll just finish off that triangular shape. Now you'll see that my graver there is a little bit dull at the point, so if I wanted the back of the grain shiny, I would polish that as well, but I'm going to be beading that, so that'll add the polish to it, so I'm not too stressed about that. Again, up to 45 degrees, rock one way and the other. You get quicker and quicker as you go, and this is decorative cutting, so if you were doing just a some pave setting, an arrangement of pave on a plate, then you wouldn't have such a long tail. You'd start off a bit shorter, about 1 mil maybe. Give you a chance to see how my hands work together and how the angles change. So push, little wobble as you go if you need to, and then lift one way then the other. Okay, and that's it for the grain lifting. The more practice you do, then obviously the better you'll get. So now I'm going to bead the grain with a beading tool. So you have to find the right size. So I've got in here from the other job I've just done, I've got a number 16, so that's way too big for these grains. The beading tool is cupped at the end there, as you can see, and that one's a large one that I've just tried earlier. And the problem is, if your beading tool is too large, then you're going to contact the stone and possibly break it. Plus you'll put indentations around the cutwork there and it looks very scruffy. So if you get the right size, then it's not going to do that. So this is a number 13, and as I said, the stone is set now, so all we're doing now is we're decorating it, finishing off the grain with a nice domed look, like so. And this also closes the grain further onto the stone and eliminates the chance of the setting catching on clothing. So just a bit of a burnish around like that, leaves it nice and polished. And I normally obsess about getting all the lines dead straight and perfect, but for this one, like I say, I'm keeping it simple because this is what you should be doing, filling up blanks with this simple four-point star setting as much as you can. Get used to your gravers before you get into bright cutting, and once you get into your bright cutting, you can do some really nice star setting. Hope you enjoyed.